Hello folks and welcome to another Premodern video. We're going to be playing in a Magic Online League this time around and with a very weird deck for me to play. I've never tried this deck before, so I'm excited to give it a shot today. And let's take a look, shall we? We are talking about what is arguably the most hated deck in the entire format, and this is Stasis. This deck is considered boring, and people hate playing against it, people hate testing against it, and that's why, in my opinion, it's such a good deck. It's because people hate playing against it and don't know how. So today we're going to be on the other end of the two-side battle. By the way, this league is sponsored by Will Hurst, so if you want somebody to blame for this, go at him. This is a deck that is built around the card Stasis, which tries to undo the quote-unquote parity that this card has by using such cards such as Thwart, Gush, and even Claws of Gix and Chain of Vapor to bounce our own Stasis and redeploy it to effectively lock our opponent out of the game by never giving them an untap step and eventually killing them through either Black Vice or a singleton Brain Freeze in the main deck. The idea is to use all of these cards to counter magic, I guess, to control the game, make sure our opponent doesn't get out of hand. Then we can either mana short to set things up or simply lock them out with Propaganda or something like that if they're playing a creature deck, land the Stasis, and then from there on we're going to be playing Drogo for quite a bit until eventually they lose to taking too much damage from Black Vice because they have too many cards in hand. So one of the innovations that Stasis has been seen the last couple of, I want to say the last year, maybe I was going to say last couple of months, but it's been like a year at this point, is like a lot of Stasis decks used to play like 19 or 20 land, which is ridiculously low in my opinion for a deck like this. So going up to something like 23 or 24 is what folks have been doing lately, and I think that is the way to go in my opinion. We also can take very good advantage of a card like this. The issue with a deck like this is you don't find the counter magic in the time frame required, or you don't find the Stasis in the time frame required, and then you fall behind and you lose. So we're gonna try to dodge that, and we're gonna try to make sure that we set up our lock in place in a timely manner. We also have in the sideboard Annul, Blue Elemental Blast, a Hydroblast, 5 copies in total, Gaia's Blessings for like matchups that go about, like decking or stuff like that, and then finally a single copy of a Curse Totem, Powder Keg, and 2 copies of Tormod Script. So this is the deck we're going to be playing in this league. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you for the very first round. Before we begin, of course, I wanted to remind you that my content will always be free, but if you would like to support it, you can find the link to my Patreon in the description of the video down below or up there in the link that's going to show up. This hand does not seem particularly great, so I'm going to ship it. I guess we keep this one, and we hope. Gonna bottom the Brain Freeze. We already have a win condition in this Black Vice, which we're just going to play out turn 1. Clock is already ticking. I feel like if we find the second land, we're probably going to win fairly easily, and if we don't, we're going to lose miserably. So, those are the options. Land? No. Alright, sad. We are very sad here. This Black Vice already dealt 6 damage, but the issue is that it doesn't really matter, right? Until every single point of damage is dealt, how much damage this Black Vice does, it really doesn't matter. I could Daze. Yeah, I guess I do Daze. My opponent's playing Elvish Spirit Guide, I get super blown out, but they don't. Still miss a land drop, so definitely pretty happy that I Dazed. Black Vice has dealt 8 points of damage. We have 22 lands to draw towards, and once we do, then we have, of course, this double Gush and the counterspell, all this stuff. Like, we're probably gonna get there very easily. Okay, so they Treva's Ruins, Reflecting Pool, Meddling Mage. So this should probably name Chain of Vapor. They named Counterspell instead. Oh, my opponent's on the Spice over there. Plated Sliver. Not a card you see every day. Alright, second land. Now we're cooking. So we can't counterspell, but it doesn't really matter, honestly. Second Meddling Mage. Now that would be a problem. All of this stuff is fine. We're going to take 4 here, which is okay. I'm going to Impulse on end step, obviously looking for a Stasis. More lands would also be a welcome addition. Yeah, sure, I'll take more islands. I'm taking an island instead of the city there because I don't know if my opponent's playing Wasteland or something like that. Oh, look at that. Sure. Already played a land drop here, but we do have the Gush already set up, so this seems fine to me. We'll see how many land drops my opponent manages to get. But with double Gush, I'm feeling pretty confident in this. They have the Treva's Ruins are just hilarious here. If I bounce something, it's not gonna be one of the slivers, right? It's gonna be the meddling mage. Yeah, take 2. We're gonna pay our upkeep, draw a card. It's a Forsaken City? Sure. I guess we don't really need to gush yet. We know that my opponent's gonna be able to at least deploy their land that they bounced. Swing for 3, totally fine. Here we can do the trick where we tap our land in response, but I don't think that I want to. I don't think I want to exile any of my cards, because I'm going to be hitting my land drops thanks to Gush. So this seems fine. Actually, yeah, this seems fine. Like, I want to be able to Chain of Vapor, I think. Now that we drew a second counterspell, obviously I feel silly, but we didn't know that at the time, right? So now we have our last couple of land drops already set up. Another Treva's Runes. If this is Meddling Mage, this could actually be a problem. So I may need to Chain of Vapor the other mage in response. Another Crystalline Sliver does not matter whatsoever. So now we are gonna pitch one of these counter spells to the Forsaken City while I pay for my upkeep with this island. We are at a super healthy life total. Second Stasis doesn't really change anything for me. Reflecting Pools, deployed. This is fine. This is why people hate playing against Stasis. It's like, you feel like you're so close. You just feel like you're so close to getting there. I'm just gonna pitch the redundant Stasis. Obviously, the Stasis pros are gonna be looking at my sequencing and my decisions here, and they're gonna be like, what the hell is he doing? But I have no idea what I'm doing, so there's that. Opponent has hidden the land drops. If they have Meddling Mage here, I'm gonna be able to make a cool play. Hibernation Sliver. Once again, this doesn't matter, so we're just gonna let that go. Yeah, let's pass the turn. Kind of want to pitch the simples since this is already covered. So let's Gush, redeploy our land, pass the turn. I'm gonna take 3, go to 5, but then we just keep doing this thing. Keep doing the thing where we don't do a thing. Untap. Pay for Stasis, play a land, pass the turn. Opponent's been doing a good job at hitting those land drops. Good for them. Here, once again, we don't pay, but we do pay for Stasis. Another chain. Having drawn the Boomerang means that this Meddling Mage wouldn't really have mattered at all, but it's still kind of interesting how the game develops. Misclicking is kind of a very real concern with this deck. It's funny that if they cast any spell, I just can power sync them, which is kind of sick, I'm not gonna lie. Power sync is pretty nasty. Do I care about bouncing this Meddling Mage? I don't think so. It sucks that I'm gonna be... I guess I don't really need to miss my land drop. Like, this effectively means that I never miss a land drop. So let's pitch, I guess, another Stasis. And if I hit like an actual land, then I can just play it out. Opponent has been doing a really good job at hitting their land drops thanks to these Terra's Ruins. So now we're not gonna untap here. Just gonna pay for Stasis. Hey, another land. Perfect. I feel like it's nice that Stasis decks have now started to play more actual lands. In the past, these decks have definitely erred on the side of greed. Just played way too little in the form of lands. So the fact that folks have finally started to fix that, I think it's good. So I could power sync this. I could just thwart. Yeah, let's just thwart. Guarantee the next 3 land drops. We're gonna go to discard, so I guess I might as well pitch one of these islands to the Forsaken City, because counting the land for turn, the card for turn, we're gonna go to discard otherwise, so might as well just do that. But yeah, my opponent is feeling the pressure of the black dice here. Is that a problem? I guess this is just a chance for me to play the power sync and just tap my opponent out completely. Hey, look at that. Point of damage. So I'm only really casting I'm only countering this because it's literally any spell that can allow me to tap my opponent out. That's the only reason why I'm doing that. Gonna say no here, pay for Stasis, play my land, and now we're gonna be able to do the trick of bouncing my own Stasis and then sack a land and bounce the Meddling Mage, which is a neat little trick. Stop hitting land drops, opponent. I want this game to end. Stop hitting land drops. Untap. Pay for Stasis. Pitch City. Another Chain of Vapor. Bounce 2 lands. Play another land. I guess I'm just gonna pitch this Boomerang here. Maybe I shouldn't have Gush there. Kind of no reason to do that. I don't think it's the time yet. We draw Thwart right there. Man, this deck is sick. Takes a long time to win the game, but... I mean, this game has been won for a while. But It's just one of those situations where I wish that we could just show my opponent the hand. Just be like, we're done here. We are done. Okay, so I'm just going to bounce Stasis, sacrifice a land, copy and bounce Meddling Mage. Now my opponent can bounce my Black Vice if they want. Don't really care. But this is going to speed up the process a little bit. Not gonna pay for this. Oh, that's, I guess, a fine draw. That very much speeds up the process. It also allows me to tap a land so I can bounce all my islands to thwart. So now 2 Black Vice triggers, opponent packs. Okay, cool. So we're playing against Slivers. I guess I want Powder Keg, and that's it. I don't think I want anything else. Mana Short seems like the worst card. Maybe Brain Freeze is a bad win condition. Mana Short may be better than Brain Freeze. I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you will sideboard here, but I do think that I don't really need anything. I'm trying to think if there's any sort of enchantment that my opponent could have that I would want to counter, but Share the Triumph, Red Elemental Blast, Hydroblast. Maybe my opponent has their own Pyroblasts. Maybe that's a reason to do this. I definitely don't care for Curse Totem. It's not gonna stop any relevant abilities, so yeah, just gonna submit this. We are ahead on clock, by the way. And this is probably the slowest deck that I've ever played. In terms of me being able to play it, I'm usually like a pretty quick player. Like I know my sequencing, I know the way that I should, how to cast cards and the order in which to do so, but this deck is a completely different animal. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I imagine here we're going to either take Chain of Vapor and play Melee Mage on Stasis, or the other way around. Impulse. Plated Sliver. Yeah, that one's fine. ×2. Man, the Slivers deck is very cool. I should experiment a little bit more with Slivers at some point. I had best success with the Gut Shell though. I haven't really tried this 5-color, another Duress. Should probably take the Impulse here. This Mana Short's not really doing anything, but it's probably better than the alternative. Yeah, I do take the Impulse. Bird. Gonna take 2. At least my opponent does not really have a clock. Not a significant one. Days. Well, this one's not gonna do much until I draw a Stasis. I could technically Mana Short, but I don't think that makes much sense. Maybe they'll play the White Sliver, the Lifelink Sliver here. I can base it. That would be sick. Okay, another 1/1. 50% increase in clock. Cabal Therapy. Huh, pretty heavy on this card, my opponent's version. It's pretty interesting. Would love to draw a Propaganda. It's a nice draw. I'm not going to be casting it this turn. My opponent's out of cards, so that is cool. I may just hard cast this Gush, unless my opponent plays something that I'm very interested in countering, which this doesn't qualify as such. So I think I'm just going to hit my land drop and cast this Gush for the full amount, if my opponent doesn't do anything of relevance next turn. Okay, they drew nothing. That Therapy is kind of annoying, not gonna lie. Good old 5 mana, draw 2. 2 islands. Another island. Right, this deck's not quite doing the thing this game. My opponent just played a bunch of 1-drops. Can I draw Powder Keg? Yes, can I draw Powder Keg, please? That would be very exciting. Guess I might as well Chain of Vapor one of these Slivers. It doesn't necessarily shorten the clock, but my opponent is gonna name Chain of Vapor, so might as well get value from one of them. I'm still gonna force them to name Chain of Vapor. Once again, my opponent is able to redeploy both Slivers again this turn, so I'm not actually getting any sort of, I'm not shortening the clock, or I guess I'm not widening the clock, should be the way to word it. I don't know. They named Days? Why would they name Days? Oh, because they thought that I used this already? I'm totally okay with that. So I guess my play was extra rewarded. Gonna take 2. Not bad. Once again, I don't really know that I'm supposed to Gush there. I don't think it really does anything, unless I find specifically Gerard's Verdict. Well, I'm gonna Gush now. I'm gonna bounce 2 islands. Wow, super cool version of the deck. Let's Impulse, see what we find. Another Gush. So I'm gonna have my opponent gain 6 here. And Trevas Ruinous is the last card in hand. Another hardcast Gush. I really need to find a Stasis. I'm just gonna die to these silly 1/1s though. Like at this point, Powder Keg is no longer an answer. I guess I technically can go to 1. So my out is to draw specifically Stasis this coming turn. So this doesn't change my opponent's clock, so I can save the foil for next turn for something a little bit more relevant. But yeah, I need to draw specifically Stasis right now, which is not it. Okay. Next game. Even with the Birds of Paradise, I don't think I care for Curse Totem. And if this were Phyrexian Furnaces, I guess I would bring them in, but because they're Tormod scripts, I have no interest. The mana short seemed awful. We do get to be on the play here. Fine. The second Forsaken City is really heinous, but playing islands, I go. Not even sure if I'm supposed to just play out this class of geeks. And takes the impulse. Starting to feel like I may be a little bit short on like counter magic and stuff like that. Boomerang is not great. Playing out the class of geeks here, so my opponent can't name it with a Cabal Therapy, but I'm not even sure if it's good. Crystalline. Yep, not much I can do about that one. Vice. Guess I play it out, but I'm not like super stoked about it. This deck is really anemic when it doesn't do the thing. Sometimes it feels like it always has it, and then you don't, and you're like, what the hell happened? I was supposed to always have it. Why am I not having it right now? Alright, duress away, my friend. Opponent takes the chain, makes sense. I'm the bird. So now I need to start drawing gushes and stuff like that. That is an island, which is not particularly useful. Maybe I should have bounced the bird. Seems such low value. Which is an interesting thing about this deck, right? Like, all of its cards are just bad. I mean, obviously you have Gush and stuff like that, but like, all of those cards are kind of bad on rate. They're only good contextually. So, like, obviously a card like Boomerang, if there's a Stasis in play that I'm bouncing and I get to untap all my lands, like, there's a lot of value there. On the other hand, now we're in a spot where like this doesn't do anything. Like, I can Boomerang the Meddling Mage and then my opponent just redeploys it next turn. Like, it's not really progressing my game plan in any meaningful way. Alright, keep on drawing lands that don't do anything. It's interesting that my opponent would name Stasis there. They have perfect information, they know that my hand is garbage, so I guess there is that. But I mean, they know for a fact that I have a Boomerang in my hand. They're also tapping City of Brass instead of the birds, which I don't understand. Like, there's no difference between these two. In fact, in the face of bounce, it's much better for them to tap the city than the bird than the city. So I could bounce the Meddling Mage here. The problem is, like, it doesn't really achieve anything until I have actually drawn the Stasis. So that's very awkward. Powder Keg is a heck of a draw though. So we're gonna take, oh, but it's not gonna be fast enough, unfortunately. So I'm gonna need to bounce the Meddling Mage so that I take 5 twice. Oh no, I can't even do that. Never mind. But it's the only thing that I can do. I guess I can start sacrificing things to Claws of Kicks. Alright, maybe there is something here. If my opponent has a naturalized effect, I'm cooked, but maybe, just maybe. There's the Mage. We know about that one. So I guess I am gonna play this out. Uptick the Keg for sure. Say no to the Forsaken City. Play my land and pass the turn. Alright. So we're gonna have to sack... Guess I'm sacking 2 lands. Sack the Forsaken City. Gain a life. The question is, do I sack the Black Vice? Or do I sack the Powder Keg? I think I sack the Black Vice instead of the land. And now we go to 1. Please don't have a sliver. GR's verdict. They got my land. So there is a chance, folks. If I impulse, I'm looking to find specifically Gush. So I think I'm just going to delay the choice here. I am going to need to crack this Powder Keg in combat, however. Like, I can't wait until second main. Clear that board. Are we in this somehow? No way we're in this, right? Is Claws of Gex really this awesome? Well, I'm gonna impulse, see what we find. Counterspell. I could try to YOLO impulse into another Gush. Also sucks that we're bottoming this Stasis. I guess it's free for me to do this. Because if I do find Gush, then it's just so much better for me. Hey, look at that. Nailed it. Ooh, baby. Is this gonna be the comeback of the century? Is that what's going on right now? Just the sickest comeback of all time? No! The Crystalline. Ugh. Alright. Double Crystalline? Yeah, I'm dead. I am super dead. What are my outs? I mean, my outs would be Propaganda into Stasis, which I can't deploy both of them. I'm gonna be 1 mana short. Ugh, brutal. Absolutely brutal. Ugh, man! Ugh. We were so close. So close. Yeah, we're done. I don't know if there was a way for me to win this game, but it was very, very close. Very interesting game. Alright, good games, Herman. That was a pretty interesting match. See you for the next round. Round number 2. This hand really wants a second island. I think I'm going to keep it, but this may not work out. Usually this deck does not really want to draw its win conditions, basically ever. Let's see what we're up against. Elves? Oh, this matchup is unwinnable. Awesome. I hope that we're not playing against elves. Guess I'm gonna Chain of Vapor this, like it seems. So I just undid my opponent's mulligan, but if they do have like a normal elves draw, I can't really win. We'll see, maybe they're playing something else. Maybe they're playing something like Stompy or whatever. Double Llanowar. This could still be Stompy, I guess. Daze. Right on time to not really do anything. Third basic forest. All creatures have forest walk? Damn, that's a card I've never seen before. Maybe this is the... Oh, this may be like the mono green deck? Dude, this card seems so much better than the one that they were playing. This is like the mono green, I guess it's not Stompy, it's like with the soul lands. Yeah, that's sick. All right, I guess I'm gonna have to let that resolve. I'm gonna have to impulse here. This is so bad for me. If I find the stasis, I'm going to take that. But if I get anything but a stasis, I'm gonna take a basic island. Okay, so no stasis, I'm gonna take an island. This is gonna allow me to actually, well, continue doing my thing. I guess I'm going to not do anything here. Play out the island, say go. We're gonna take 7. Wild growth. Yeah, this is just the Stompy. Like, this is sick. I'm gonna get destroyed by Lumbering Satyr. Call of the Herd. Not much I can do about that, so... This is 5, 7, go to 12. Really have to find stasis. Not gonna pitch. Thwart. So, we can go to 2. Punish for not pitching, by the way. Oh, this is my opponent's hand does not really do anything. Tangle Wire? Well, that's gross. So does that mean that I'm dead? I honestly don't know how this works. I think I have to gush here and hope that I hit a counter spell. But I also need, if I thwart, that means I can't gush. Okay, so we're done. If I thwart, I can't gush. And then I'm in a situation where I need to like find stasis, and also I need to find something like a propaganda or whatever. So I cannot deploy both in time. Man, I'm not good at playing this deck. Holy crap, am I bad. Alright, what do we have here? Curse Totem only stops Llanowar elves, which I don't think matters. I think I'm into a null, and that's really it. Boomerang seems reasonable. Mana Short seems kind of unnecessary. Propaganda is nice. I guess Mana Short stops like Naturalize and stuff, so maybe it's worth including. Power Sink, probably fine. Oh, it only taps lands, it doesn't tap. So I'm gonna cut the Power Sink. Oh, Brain Freeze sucks. What else? Boomerang. I guess I don't really want that many annuls. I'll just put 2 annuls. Like, I don't think annul is better than all of my other cards, so we're just gonna go with this. Maybe annul is better than Mana Short, though. Oh my god. This deck hates me. This deck absolutely despises me. Okay, this hand's okay. So keep this. Bottom the Boomerang, I guess. Play Island, say go. I think hitting my lineup's going to be important. Elves. Yeah, I'm gonna let that go, and I'm gonna hope to daze whatever my opponent plays next. But if I daze here, then I effectively time walk myself, and I'm not really interested in doing that. So I'd much rather be able to impulse, plus hopefully find something else to do. Yeah, there's City of Traders. Wild Growth. I mean, if I do find the stasis here, we're gonna be really cooking. Blastoderm. Did I just daze that? Please don't exile X Elvish Spirit Guide. That would have been that would have been brutal. But now we're kind of in okay shape. We can counter something if it happens to be relevant. We can try to impulse into a stasis. I imagine I can Carpet of Flowers? That cannot resolve in a gazillion years. My opponent with the tech. Jesus. We did hit our land drop, which means that we can foil something if we need to. We're gonna be taking some damage here. And this card is so cool. I have never seen it before, and I'm about to get really owned by it. It's so many elves. I guess that's fine. Winter Orb. Does this do anything at all against me? No, I don't think it does anything whatsoever. Let's simples though to see what we find. Another impulse. We have Chain of Vapor. I guess I'd rather have Chain of Vapor than another impulse, because like casting this impulse is actually going to be pretty annoying. We take opponent down to 1 card in hand, so at least we have that going for us. We untap, and that's a stasis. So let's gush, play my land, play stasis. Winter Orb, you say? Let me let me double down on that. I call and I raise you a stasis. Pay 1. Play my land and say go. So they do have the Naturalize, and it's pretty brutal. I guess I have to foil. I could also impulse for Thwart, but I don't think that is realistic. So I think we're gonna just foil Pitching Island and counterspell. And we should have cast the impulse, actually. We're not in good shape here. Maybe we are. We're like a gush away from just winning, so maybe it's just fine. But I need to find a way to get ahead. One has Ancient Tomb. Untap. Pay 1. It's an interesting pickup. So I guess I'm going to have to Chain of Vapor now on end step. And I don't think I sack a land because all my lands matter here. Oh no, there's this Winter Orb. I didn't bounce the Winter Orb. I'm very stupid. I was supposed to sack a land to bounce the Winter Orb. Okay, I threw away this game. I just threw this away. Oh man. I forgot that this was a card. I've been ignoring it up until now, and then I forgot that we were under the effects of this as well. Yeah, I just threw this away. We learned. We learned some stuff in there. We learned that I'm very bad at playing this deck. See you for the next one. On to game number 3. I'm not doing this deck any justice, to be honest, but I'm gonna keep this hand. Seems reasonable enough. Man, that previous game was so winnable. Playing this deck is super interesting. It really forces you to play about the game and to sequence the game in such a weird way. Quite abnormal, to be honest. What is this? Ancient Tomb Mindstone. Play an island, say go. What are we up against? Is this some sort of Tinker deck? Yeah, it is Tinker. Alright, pass the turn. The opponent's gonna Factor Fiction here. Oh, Impulse. Factor Fiction I would be a lot less excited about. Letting resolve. Opponent down to 10. I mean, this Black Vise with this Ancient Tomb, both in combination are quite the clock. Tanglewire, Fellwar Stone. I think I power sync this because I'm not really power syncing anything else. So I might as well not give my opponent more stuff to do with their mana and more stuff to tap to their Tanglewire, I mean. Another Gush. So my opponent's gonna get to resolve one thing here. They don't really have that much mana to work with. I love that this random Black Vise just gives me something to tap to the wire. Also, if they have any Factor Fiction, they cannot actually cast that because that would cost them at least 3 life, and then I make a 5-0 split and they die on their upkeep. Or I guess I destroy the Ancient too. They don't really die on the upkeep, but close enough. So tap 3 things, play another island. This is kind of an interesting draw because now I get to Gush, have enough islands for Thwart if I need to. Yeah, this Tanglewire here didn't really do anything. This is why I don't like this card. Even in my Survival Welder lists, I have been like just cutting down on Tanglewires. Sometimes it's bonkers and sometimes just doesn't do anything. And this is an example of the latter. We haven't really seen the Devourer deck in the metagame for quite a bit at this point. So they tinker away the wire, which makes me want to Gush in response. And the reason for this is that they can just go find Defense Grid. So I want to make sure. Yeah, okay, so now whatever they resolve, I can just bounce. So I'm just going to let this go. I could, float mana and dig again, but if my opponent does have Fling, I'm going to be forced to go look for another counterspell. And at that point, it needs to be exactly counterspell, which is kind of awkward. It is Defense Grid, yeah. So now we can actually mess with this. I can just Chain of Vapor in my opponent's end step. The problem is if I bounce it now, my opponent just redeploys it, so there's no use in doing that. Would have been awesome to find the Stasis there. Maybe I should have just gushed looking for Stasis. Propaganda, looking so bad here. I guess we just passed the turn. And I guess now I can boomerang this on my opponent's end step. They're doing stuff on my end step? Sure. They go to 4 now. So with them at 4, I could bounce the Mind Stone. That means they take 1. And that actually leaves them without colored mana plus Ancient Tomb. So I guess that's fine. I guess I have to boomerang the Defense Grid, actually. So we boomerang the Defense Grid here. I can't Chain of Vapor it, because if I do, then my opponent just bounces my Black Vise, and I need these to deal damage. So now that they're at 3, this effectively blanks the Ancient Tomb, because otherwise they have no colored mana, and they can't really win. So now they're redeployed the Defense Grid, that's fine. Altar. Alright, so I guess if they have Tinker, I lose. They don't have Tinker. Oh my god, this is so close. Do I just Gush? They have 4, so I can bounce Defense Grid again. This blanks the Ancient Tomb, so they're gonna bounce the Black Vise. What am I out? I can Gush for. I mean, if I find Stasis, we win. I would also like to have access to some sort of counter magic. So yeah, I think I'm gonna Gush here, and I just find a lot of lands. So let's main phase again, bounce the Defense Grid. My opponent now could just sacrifice the Ancient Tomb, because like this land is effectively dead now, because they're gonna be taking 1 point. Oh, they don't. Well, hardcast this Gush here and find a bunch of lands. I think I'm discarding both of these propagandas. So opponent now down to 2. Ancient Tomb doesn't do anything. They find the second one. So now they can redeploy the Defense Grid, and they win if they have Tinker. So we lose to Tinker. defense grid. Okay, that's fine. If they have specifically Tinker, we lose. Man, our hand was really bad this game. Our hand was very, very bad this game. Okay, they have exactly Tinker. There's nothing I could have done here, I guess, because they would have led on defense grid. So if I counter defense grid, then I cannot cast a counterspell anyway. So it's not like I could have sequenced this in any different way to prevent this from happening. Like I could have, my opponent had the lock because they had specifically just defense grid into Tinker and they deployed Altar over 2 turns. So there was nothing I could have done here. I'm just looking at their deck list. That's all I'm doing here. I'm actually just dead. Okay, so I'm main decking Savos Web. Yeah, okay, I think I've seen enough. Let's bring in these annuls. Let's bring in these Gaia's Blessings. Cut these propagandas, please. Please cut these propagandas. Do we want Brain Freeze? Oh, we want the blue the Elemental Blast. So this only counters my opponent's Power Blasts and their Fling. But Gaia's Blessing effectively means that I literally cannot lose to the Altar combo. So then I want an alternative game plan, right? And then that's where the blue Elemental Blasts come in. Does Mana Shard do anything? Don't think so. I don't think I care about Brain Freeze. It feels like damage is how I'm gonna win these games. Maybe 4 blue Elemental Blasts is a little bit too many. Could just go with 3, I guess. Really don't know what to do here. As you probably figured out by this point, I have no idea what I'm doing when I'm playing this deck. Am I crazy to want to cut Stasis in this matchup? Just go down to 3? No, my opponent's gonna have Pyroblast. Just cut Daces. I am on the play though. Yeah, that's probably fine. This hand looks pretty solid. Yeah, any of these cards would have been great last game. Is my opponent gonna go with this strategic mulligan? Just mulligan to get under Black Vice. Okay, just a mull to 6. Ancient Tomb into Mind Stone. Okay, I'm gonna play the second Black Vice here because we have access to Blue Elemental Blast. Really would want to hit land number 3 here. But also Black Vice makes Tanglewire that much worse, which I'm pretty excited about. That's the Altar. That's cool. And nothing else. Once again, this is a dead card. Like, it literally doesn't do anything because I cannot get milled. Unless I happen to draw both of my Gaia's Blessings. I cannot actually get milled. Second Mind Stone. Untap. Another land is great. So lands is kind of all that I want to be drawing here. City of Traders has been played. Now we can gush so that we can hit our land drop. We still have access. Ugh, vomit. But yeah, we're not going to discard here. Man, if I happen to draw my second blessing, I'm gonna be so sad. That would be so bad for me. Opponent's doing stuff. Tanglewire. I can annul that? Man, right. Wire the turn after I gush. It's kind of brutal there, but I think it's, yeah, we're good. If Wire were cast this turn, I would not have countered it. Maybe I still shouldn't have countered it, because I could have just tapped and then just play my land, and I still have counterspell up. Redundant Altar is more dead cards. I guess more dead cards until I find I can get rid of this. So they're not technically dead as of right now. I'm just not doing anything over there, huh? I may be forced to impulse into a city just so I don't get caught with both of my blessings in hand. This game we're in really good shape though. I would love if we can win so we don't show my opponent blessing, and then next turn they still have a bunch of altars in their deck. So now we see exactly the opposite of what happened last game. Like previous game I drew 2 propagandas which did literally nothing. And this game is the exact opposite, where I took Thwart there over the city because I think that we can actually just win this game without showing my opponent blessing. And I feel like that is pretty valuable. I think right now is the turn to start chain of vaporing, but Chromatic Sphere resolves. Stasis. Am I just playing Stasis not to discard? I think so. Maybe this is wrong, but I think I'm supposed to just play out Stasis here. Oh, we baited out something? That would be a great exchange. But if it's a Power Blast, I think I fight it. It is a null. Do I want to counter this? I guess so. So this is like a fake fight. I'm fighting over this just so that I get to use up my opponent's resources at a point where it's convenient to me. But I don't actually want this Stasis to resolve. I just want to use up cards and to have my opponent put spells on the stack so that I can use Thwart. If my opponent fights over this, I'm going to be pretty happy. Another null. Yeah, this is fine. Totally cool. We got to use some spells at a convenient time for us. We got to not go to discard, which feels like a pretty big win. Still slightly sad that I used that annul on that Tanglewire though. They filter with Sphere. Devourer? Yeah, that's fine. And I'm letting this Devourer resolve because they don't have enough mana to fling. And even if they do, I have Blue Elemental Blast anyway. So, okay. Looks like one is gonna go for it. Now that they're gonna see the blessings, I do think that we still leave them in. But yeah, now with my opponent going for it, oh, this is gonna be game. This is the famous call an ambulance, but not for me. Oh no, call an ambulance, but not for me. My opponent says, haha. Got him. They get to see how I sideboarded and I get to see how they sideboarded, but that's fine. Yeah, just pack it in. So there is Power Blast, there's Fling, and Rushing River, bunch of annuls. Yeah, nothing surprising, honestly. Defense grid, everything that you would expect. More Bebs. I don't think so. We are on the draw this time around. Power Sync. Power Sync seems really bad. Still don't think I want Brain Freeze. Yeah, this is fine. They have so much artifact mana that Power Sync is just very awkward. Maybe I should have Powder Keg. Every time a blessing is in your hand, an angel loses its wings. What do we think here? This hand's pretty good if I find a land in the first 2 turns. A little bit below 50%, but I think it's worth it. And we can still draw cards like Annul, we can still draw Pyroblast. Turn 1, Chromatic Sphere ×2 off of Ancient Tomb. Alright, that's a card I can cast at least. The thing is, once I find my first land drop, then the second land drop is almost guaranteed. I can technically whiff on the impulse, but opponent looking for that land. Black Vice. Guess we don't go to this card, baby. Let's go. Once again, hoping to not just lose to not hit my land. Again, like it's so crazy to me that people used to play like 19 or 20 lands in Stasis. Like this deck is just so hungry for land drops. I'm probably just gonna cast it Honest Devourer here. That's a play. I think we are fine to take a couple of hits from this. Mind Stone. YOLOing. Just making it, just hoping that they don't kill it. Yeah, this is the Honest Devourer. I think I'm gonna bounce it on end step. I really don't want to cast an impulse here. I think I'm just gonna do this. I am so sad right now. I think I actually just impulse main phase here. I mean, I don't think I can afford to miss a land drop. Okay, here it is. That's so bad though. That is just an awful play. But they did get rid of their City of Traders. Okay, so there's a Devourer. Untap. I think I'm just going to pitch this blessing here. And we draw another blessing. Dude, this is a nightmare. We're just living in a nightmare world. I cannot believe that just happened. It is completely unreasonable what just happened. That is insane. That is absolutely insane. I can't believe that. That's unreal. Okay, so we just pay with an island. We have a second gush. I think we're still in this. We're still doing the thing. Yeah, we're just gonna hit all land drops here. We're doing the thing. Slowly but surely. My opponent can't really do much. After this coming turn, we're gonna be able to have Blue Elemental Blast and Thwart, which is nice. Yeah, all of this land drop hitting is just fantastic. This is exactly what we want. Opponent doing a good job at hitting the land drops. Pay for Stasis. I don't think I play this out. I think that threatening the counter magic is much more valuable. Keep doing the thing. So I guess this turn we're gonna be untapping one of these lands because I'm planning on gushing next turn. So I want to use some of my mana. I think we just pitch Annul. Gush. We play my land. I think we cast another Black Vice. Pass the turn, discarding the impulse. Now my opponent is on a little bit of a clock. We finally got to 4 cards. I really don't want to show my opponent that I drew the other blessing, so that's why I'm doing it like this. Now they take 2. Oh, not this turn. The next turn they're gonna take 2, my bad. We have 1 more land, so I don't wanna chain a Vapor quite yet. We're gonna be chaining on the following turn, I think. Pay for Stasis, play my island. Now they take 2. As is, we don't have to do anything. They're gonna take 4, and then they're gonna take 4 more on the following turn. So they are the ones that are forced into action. Pitch a counter spell there. Yeah, Gush is sick. Gush is just confirmed GG's. I think we discard this foil. Now they have 7 cards in hand. They have to do something. Defense grid. Counter that. Mind Stone resolves. Chromatic Sphere also resolves. And now we're gonna do Chain of Vapor. So on my end step, Chain of Vapor Stasis. And with the cup, then I'm gonna sacrifice the Forsaken City to bounce the Devourer as well. Impulse in response. That is good. So I think we got this game. They don't have enough mana to overload. What overload is? No. What is the... No, but that's only for sorcery speed. Like the red card that makes a A sorcerer speed uncounterable or something. Okay, my opponent's doing stuff, so they're just going for the fling. But we have that covered with the blue elemental blast. They don't need to exile their entire deck. 24 already. It's not like I'm going to be gaining life. I could also thwart this, but it's so much better to just counter target red spell. And there we go. We finally got a W. Finally got a win. And that was round 3. See you for the next. On to round number 4. This hand looks reasonable. Playing against Mishra's Factory. I think it's possible that Black Vice will be good against Mishra's Factory. Unless I'm playing against, like, Oath. If I could be playing against Oath. Ritz Grove. I guess I am playing against Oath. Oath of Druids. It resolved. Do we just boomerang their land? just time walk them. That's hilarious. Alright, we're probably not gonna expose this one for a bit. That is a treetop village, which I guess is fine. Another Dace is not great. I guess I'm just gonna play it out. I may want to thwart something. And my opponent's, like, this is actually clocking my opponent pretty aggressively, so... Okay, we do that. Now what? Thermokarst my land? That's so mean. I guess I just Dace. Hardcast. Gonna say no to Forsaken City. I think I'm into main phase impulse here. Can't find a land. We can just get Stasis, I guess. But I guess I don't play it now, because if we get Wastelanded, then we get blown out. So I'm not gonna play it here. Opponent takes 3. Yep, they did top deck the Wasteland, so feeling very smart right now. Second Oath. Another Thwart is not great. Yeah, this is kind of heinous. I guess I could have technically just bounced one of these Oaths, but then my opponent, and then like I thwart the copy of Chain of Vapor. It's so bad though. I guess I Daze this as well. I could Oath now. I could bounce the Oath now, I mean. I guess I can just play, yeah, I'm just gonna play an honest Stasis. Like, I'm just flooded here with thwarts that don't do anything. So I'm just gonna just honestly pay for my Stasis. I have a second one, so it's fine. And I top deck the Black Vice. That's brutal. That's so rough. So if we find a land, we're gonna get there. Any land does it? No. Okay. So opponent's gonna go down 1. And then I guess my plan is to like Chain of Vapor on my main phase and then drop 2 Black Vices. I'm gonna have to thwart this, I guess. Oh, they played a TerraOath. Yeah, that's fine. So if they port me on upkeep, I'm just gonna bounce. Play out the third Oath. That's hilarious. Alright, this really didn't work out. This is pretty bad. Man, I really need to find a land there. Okay, so we found another one. So I guess I play another Stasis now. And we're going to pay twice in Chain of Vapor. My opponent needs to hit land drop back to back, which they do unfortunately for me. Man, so many Oath triggers. And each one of them forces you to choose a target. That's gross. Land, please. Boomerang. That sucks. Okay, so I guess on end step, I'm going to cast this Stasis. Bounce my Stasis, I mean. And suck a land to bounce the TerraOath. And now my opponent has 5 cards in hand. They can sack a land to bounce my Black Vice, but obviously that doesn't matter. I have a second one, so even if they have something like Naturalize, it's irrelevant. So we did get there in the end. Obviously, I mean, this matchup game 1 is obviously, they have Oath of Druids, so my opponent drew 3, which is very, very bad for them, obviously. It's literally a dead card. Also, Ritz Grove kind of got them pretty good. Sure. Sack a port, make me out bounce my land. That's totally fine. Untap, play a land, play Black Vice, and they concede. Alright, cool. So now, we want to nulls. My opponent's playing green-white, meaning that we don't care about blue elemental blast, which we would be otherwise quite excited about. And what else do we want? Brain Freeze, once again, feels unnecessary. This has felt like not a main deck card. Like, I feel like I say it out every single match. Obviously, it's great against Dreadnought. It's great against stuff like control decks. But, I mean, our deck is great against control decks anyway. So I don't really understand having the Brain Freeze. The issue that I have with Brain Freeze is that unless decking is your win condition, then this card is a dead card. And if decking is your win condition, then Black Vices are dead cards. So you kind of have to... Like, these are pushing you in 2 very different directions, which isn't super helpful, to be honest. This seems like a matchup where Propaganda, it's either incredible or terrible, and I don't think I can figure out which one it is. Don't think I need mana short. Although I guess this... No, this is the I was thinking this is good against Pyroblast, but my opponent's playing green-white, so never mind. I do think I want Daces, because my opponent probably is not going to be able to side out all their land destruction. Maybe we can cut one, potentially two. Tormod's Crypt is really bad against the Oath deck. Are there any matchups where we cut Stasis? Not that this is one of them. I'm just wondering if there's any matchups where I'm interested in doing that. Power Sync, because we're going to be on the draw. Just cut a Propaganda. Man, my sideboarding may be so bad. Like, it's such a weird deck to sideboard with. I mean, without knowing what matters and what doesn't and why, it's really, really hard to properly sideboard with a deck. This looks good though. Slightly unfortunate that we drew Forsaken City. This card is a little bit of a risk, but that's why we have 20 islands. Put him to 6, which means that I'm not really interested in just dropping this Black Vice on turn 1. Feels like holding up a null may be more relevant, and then I got punished. I mean, if my opponent wants to, yeah, here I'm gonna play the Black Vice. I feel like if my opponent wants to like use a counter on Gemstone Mine with their port, I'm totally fine with it. They're just gonna naturalize. Either way, it's fine. Yeah, this is totally fine. Doesn't really matter. Here I may have to annul something. Library. Yeah, I'm definitely annulling that one. Gemstone Mine is so bad. What am I pitching here? I think nothing. Yeah, just pass the turn. It's pretty cool that my opponent decided to gift me a Stone Rain. I also gifted one to them, but we don't talk about that. I guess this turn up, I am actually going to go ahead and pitch a Stasis to this Forsaken City. If my opponent has a Wasteland, it's an absolute disaster, but Sphere and all that. So now I'm not gonna pitch, because now I'm not going to discard, so perfect. We love to see a land there. We're kind of chilling, just hanging out. These annuls are working overtime. Another Sphere. Niet. Obviously, now that I know about the onboard Wasteland, I'm never pitching a card to this Forsaken City. I guess I want to drop this Propaganda. Feels like if it draws a Naturalize, just fine with that. And it allows me to use my mana on a turn where I'm not using it otherwise. So this seems fine. Opponent taps my island, that's fine. Would love to find like a Gush style card. There's a Treetop. So this Propaganda is going to start to be annoying for my opponent. Like, they're just not going to be able to clock me. Tap my island. Stasis number 3. That's a lot of them. Thermokarst my island. And with confidence. Sucks. Obviously, it's terrible for me that happened. But so I guess at this point, I'm going to pitch one of these Stasis to the Forsaken. No, because it just gets tapped. Never mind. Right on cue. Right on time. Okay. If I play Stasis, I force the issue in the Wasteland. So this is like an alternate route for me to force my opponent to crack the the Wasteland, which is pretty funny. Also, it allows me to actually use up a card, which is what I want to do here. My opponent can Wasteland, or they can not Wasteland, in which case they can't prevent me from paying. So here I'm just going to pitch the foil, I think. They are going to Wasteland, they should do it right now. So otherwise I just get my mana. Island would be a great draw. Perfect. So now we keep on keeping on. Now we're going to pay on upkeep. Say no. Pay upkeep. More islands would be great. Perfect. Opponent really doesn't want to Red Elemental Blast. Resolve. You got me. They really don't want to use the Wasteland, which is interesting. I wonder what the game plan is. Maybe Sphere. We untap. We do not pay. We float some mana. We Gush. We're going to drop a second Stasis. This one we may fight a little bit more over. Red Elemental Blast. I think I want to chain this and then not pay. If my opponent wants to spend 5 mana to attack with this, 2 mana to attack with this, I'm totally fine with it. And they finally fire off the Wasteland. Alright, opponent, you get 1 attack phase. Grasp my land? Don't grasp my land. Please counter this. If my opponent is wondering whether to rev something, they should probably do this. And by the way, my opponent's playing like S3 colors. Like if they rev this, I am ecstatic. I'm extremely happy because I'm going to discard from this Gush regardless. Super happy if my opponent decides to rev that. I don't want to chain this TerraOath. We already have another chain. We're going to go to discard anyway. Yeah, I guess I do. And they sack a land? All right. Yeah, I'm totally happy about that. Super happy about that. Okay, play my land. Here's a keg. And I guess that I am going to pitch this Forsaken City and an island. Maybe pitching the island is not right. So their hand is TerraOath and 3 unknowns. They also pitched the port, which is really interesting. Interesting take that my opponent's doing. They're like adding green and white both to the Oath deck. I don't think this is worth it. As we're seeing, my opponent's mana is kind of a disaster. So let's play his Propaganda here. Like, Gemstone Mine is really bad in this deck. This deck thrives on the fact that it uses all of its mana every single turn. So you just cannot afford to play a card like Gemstone Mine. It's just not reasonable. Okay, so unfortunately Powder Keg does not answer Sylvan Library. Slightly unlucky. Still no access to Black Buys, but that's fine. I'm a patient man. They only pay 4, which is cool. Maybe I should have pitched one of these Stasis, but I was really scared of pitching one of these when I know that my opponent's playing Rebs. Like, I want to be able to just like throw away a Stasis if I want to. Like, to be able to afford to do so. So I'm going to say no here. Once again, we're Gush flooded, so I Gush, play Stasis. Yeah, I guess I have to. That's a nice pickup for sure. We already have another Gush here. And now this means that we don't go to discard, which is a huge deal. Yeah, I guess that Power Blast is fine. Like, I'm not willing to discard the land here. So my opponent needs to be wary with this Sylvan Library. Mock. Kind of an advantage that my opponent gets to discard a card. Which is funny. And tap. Gonna say no. And we're gonna... I think we're gonna play another Stasis here. No, there's no need to do it yet. So let's just pass the turn. We already have a bunch of islands. I kind of want to bounce this Sylvan Library though. But I need my opponent to tap out. My opponent's being super careful about not tapping out. Play my land and pass the turn. Now we're pretty comfortable in terms of access to mana. We have not seen a single fetch land from my opponent, which is super strange. The amount of work this Propaganda is doing is kind of unreal. So I was definitely very wrong about cutting the other copy. Cataclysm? Is that fine? That just seems to me that it's totally fine. We just tap all of our mana that we're not going to keep. We pitch the Powder Keg, so that destroys the Mox Diamond. And then we just keep 1, 1, and 1. We have 3 lands to work with. My opponent's going to have nothing. Yeah, this seems very much okay. Keep this, and keep this. Game is officially reset. Okay, I don't want to Chain of Vapor the library. Not yet, at least. Sure. Now we're just going to have to Daze the Terravore. 17. Kind of awkward that I can't bounce the Mox nor the library, because otherwise my opponent just bounces my Propaganda, and my Propaganda is doing way too much work here. It was an interesting line that my opponent attempted to set up there. It's very likely to not work. But I mean, if my opponent has a Thermokarst here, now they're in business. Yeah, I don't know. Another Terravore I can beat? Yeah, Thermokarst is kind of a big deal. Alright, you got me. We're drawing Alliance though, which is good. Very cool game. Very, very cool game. Maybe I should have just counterspelled the Cataclysm there. Fire off the Factory. I guess they're gonna tap low. Super big win for us. If that's the best thing they can do, even with library, that means that's the best thing they're gonna be able to do next turn as well. I'm not gonna play this CD because they may have sandbagged the land. Now we have counterspell mana up though, so yeah, I'm a lot less scared now about this. Okay, cool. Now we get to play a Stasis. My opponent's completely tapped out. Once again, I could have just played out the Forsaken CD, but if I were my opponent, I would have been sandbagging a Wasteland all of this time. And this is the last Stasis that I have access to here, so I kind of have to take good care of it if I can. So this is a very interesting turn, because what I can do here is I can... Let's think about this. So we still have one land drop left. So the thing here is if I bounce this, like if I Chain of Vapor and then bounce their library, I know that their library locked, so they're gonna be taking some damage. So then I sack a land, I have 3 lands available, then I play Forsaken City, and then I have 2 mana up. Yeah, I think that's worth it. Sack land, bounce your library. And at this point, if my opponent wants to bounce my Propaganda, it just doesn't matter anymore. They could bounce my Black Buys, which would be a little bit more annoying, but still costs them a land, which is no joke in the current situation we're in. Yeah, they don't choose to copy. So now we play that. Here's my Stasis. And now we should be locked, I think. Even if my opponent's been sandbagging a Wasteland all this time, they get rid of this, but I have Gush, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, Mox is fine. Then I annul the library. So I guess we're gonna see the rare end step Gush, because I know everything's covered, and I want to know if I'm supposed to untap Forsaken City here, which it looks like I am. I'm gonna pitch this Thwart, and then I'm gonna pay... Actually, I should have pitched the counterspell. I guess that was a mistake on my part. It's a Boomerang. I'm into that. Very much into that. Man, this deck is super interesting. It works on an axis that I don't think I've ever seen another deck work on. Unfortunately, there's nothing I want to boomerang here, so I think I'm going to pitch the boomerang to the city. And once again, I'm using the city mana here because I don't want to get got by a wasteland. But now that I have another island, we should be good to go because now I have Counterspell and Thwart up, and I can have Counterspell and also pay for upkeep. When it finally found the fetch land. But the life is actually not negligible here. We're now going to pitch, we are going to pay, and play another land. I'm not going to play out the second Vice. Ooh, my opponent's been hitting land drops. That's bad for me. I'm going to say no to that one, and yes to that one. Guess a nice pickup? No, I should have actually pitched. This is irrelevant. I should have just pitched this to... Oh, never mind. Yeah, they wasteland now. They figure it out. So untap, pay for upkeep. Another land is great. Pass the turn. Opponent can't really play a spell here. Oh, Port is big. Port is really big game actually. Port is bonkers. So now they just sandbag until I miss a land drop. And then... I was very lucky to hit a land drop there, by the way. But now they just sandbag until I hit a land drop, and then they just get rid of my Stasis. Huge deal. So now they should tap my land on end step. Now they miss the untap, so I don't care anymore. That was a really big punt. Like, my opponent actually had me here. I mean, they didn't really have me. They would have just forced me to do something awkward that I didn't want to do. So we're not going to sack a land here, obviously. Untap. Play Stasis again. Having Boomerang is great. Unclear if they have any more fetchables, honestly, because my opponent has pitched a bunch of lands to their Moxen. My opponent said they had to dodge the 4th chain. Man, crazy game. Hitting the land drop there, I would assume it's pretty much just the nail in the coffin. Also, I want to save this Black Vice because if we lock them out, like, it's not going to matter how quickly we kill them. And this is a 1-mana spell that I can run into my own Thwart, so I can hit 3 more land drops. So I don't want to play out this Black Vice quite yet. They fetch. Let's see if they actually have any fetchables left. Yeah, they do. Any spell they play, I'm gonna thwart. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Been drooling over here, waiting for a chance to thwart literally anything. My opponent played it very well, honestly. Like, they played this match very, very well. It was just that one misstep with the Rishadan port that would have turned the entire match around. Man, honestly, I find this matchup really cool. I think that playing against Stasis is super interesting and skill intensive. Like, it forces you to think in ways that you would not otherwise. So I personally find it extremely enjoyable. I know that I am very much on the minority. Yeah, this is actually like a very cool feature about MTGO, you know, like we're just discussing what was going on in the match. And, you know, my opponent's actually, you know, receptive to feedback. So that's very cool. You know, that's how you learn. And this is, you know, obviously if you do this in a webcam game, it's the same thing. Well, a lot of people say, oh, I don't like that on MTGO. You just don't talk to your opponent. That's just not true. That's just literally not true. And there we go. Opponent packs it in. And we are on to 2-2. The dream is still alive. Round number 5, and this, we've seen an awful lot of one-landers. We're on the play here, so I'm gonna mulligan. We need more lands. Do I just bought on the Stasis? Having no idea what I'm playing against. Tough to choose. I guess I just bought on Propaganda. Like, it's the most specific. Like, I don't know that I'm playing against a creature deck, right? Whereas Boomerang, whether I'm playing against a creature or a non-creature deck, it doesn't really matter. Like, this card's probably gonna be good. Birds of Paradise. Play my island. Great draw. Love drawing some islands. I imagine this forest was their draw for turn. Survival, it's probably worth a counterspell, I guess. Another land, send it back. I don't think we are in Boomerang Your Birds of Paradise land quite yet. So this looks like black-green survival. I cannot fathom this matchup being good for me. On the plus side, they have exactly one answer to Stasis game 1. But assembling the lock is going to be a heck of a challenge. Rager. Alright, my opponent's cooking with something else then. Another island. I just play Stasis here? We have Gush. We have Boomerang to reset if we want. No, this does seem a little bit too early. Like, I really wish I had one counterspell in hand so that we could, if I need to do something, we can just bite the bullet and do it. Yeah, that's really bad for me. So survival resolves, which is very bad for me. And now there's the Mesmeric Fiend. So the good thing is that they're forced to take the Boomerang. Because otherwise I just Boomerang and, you know, there's that. It takes Stasis. So I guess they're forcing me to use the Boomerang. They missed a land drop, notably, and we immediately draw the Stasis, and we're extremely punished. I'm thinking that maybe I should have gushed that last turn, because I'm not going to discard, and I may have found... I think I'm going to gush now, because I may find Black Vice to start putting on a clock. Opponent doesn't play it, which is good for me, honestly. Flooding a little bit here. Opponent sandbagging a little bit over there, which is cool. Makes sense. They're waiting for me to do stuff. This is nice because having a second stasis, now I don't need to use a chain to reset this stasis. So that Claws of Gigs is actually a reasonable draw. We continue hitting land drops. That's a really big deal. I guess I'm gonna gush now for the reason that I stated before. Okay, that's cool. What are my vices? My vices of the black variety. So the plus side is I don't need to do anything. So this play pattern is gonna continue for a while I hit my land drops, which looks like I'm never ever missing. What I really don't want is for Sunny to draw a duress. That would suck for me. Untap, pay for stasis, play my land. Therapy would actually destroy me. So now that I drew the second stasis, if Sunny doesn't do anything on my end step, I'm going to suck stasis to the Claws of Gigs and cast his Impulse. Could also just cast his Thwart. So what's the nightmare scenario here? I think I have to thwart, because if my opponent has Cabal Therapy, I actually lose this game. So I think I'm forced to thwart there. Because otherwise they just Cabal Therapy, name Stasis, and I just get absolutely destroyed. So let's go with the end step Impulse, looking for a Vice so I can start to end this game. These are good cards that I just bought them though, so I'm not stoked about that. We sacrifice the Stasis, we get our untap, play land, play Stasis, play Vice, and now we get to start ending the game. Tap 2 CDs for Food Chain. Alright. I guess this resolves. So now they have 4 mana for creature spells. They can go up the chain. Okay, so I have to Chain of Vapor the Food Chain now. I guess I can also like bounce my Stasis while I'm at it. Does that do anything? So we use 1 mana, bounce Stasis, but we suck a land. Yeah, I guess it's fine. So bounce my Stasis, suck a land, bounce the Food Chain. Man, that was close. So now they can't actually use the... Okay, so they cycle land, they're gonna bounce my Black Vice, which is fine, I can just redeploy it. The survival doesn't really matter, because they can't activate it, but 2 Fiends would be a problem. 1 Fiend is fine, I can work through one Fiend. They're gonna take the Black Vice, so they took the Chain. Interesting. So we untap, play Vice, play Stasis. And now we're cooking, we have Counterspell. I think that we are now in the clear. And they missed a land drop. Funny enough, they can actually pitch a creature to survival and just fail to find. To take less damage from Vice, which is kind of funny. Once again, the Brain Freeze. I mean, obviously, this is a meta call. That's why Will has been playing Brain Freeze, is because it's just good against some of the top decks. But it's really bad here. Oh, sure, I should have probably counterspelled that, huh? That seemed worth countering. Okay, so now we just have lethal. Never mind. I'm a genius for not countering that. I guess he can once again, like, just pitch a creature and fail to find. But then, like, what's he really drawing towards, right? Alright, so we're playing against Food Chain. That's sick. That's so sick. So Curse Totem has to be good against whatever it is that he's doing. I don't even care what it is. I'm gonna cut Propagandas. Like, this does seem like it's very much not a Propaganda matchup. Dazes on the draw, I'm not super stoked about. And once again, Brain Freeze just gets cut. The good thing about having Brain Freeze in the main deck is that it makes sideboarding a lot easier. we start by cutting the Brain Freeze and then we see what else. Maybe Propaganda is fine as a one-off. Maybe better than Mana Short. Actually, I like Mana Short better than Power Sink. So let's go with this. Man, Food Chain. That's kind of amazing. I'm into it. I'm super into it. I hope that this deck is real. I remember at one point there was a player in the MTGO circuit that was, I can't remember who it was, but they were doing super well with Food Chain Elves, which was like a list with like 19 basic forests, and that's it. And then just a bunch of creatures, and I'm not sure if survival was in the mix. I think it may not have been. So just add survival and make your deck better. That's the recipe. Continues to be true. This hand's pretty sweet. Potentially a little bit owned by Duress. Definitely gets owned by Cabal Therapy, but any hand this deck has gets owned by Cabal Therapy, so moves to 5. That's brutal. Well, here's a land. Not gonna Chain of Vapor this bird, unfortunately. This is getting an annul though. Tell you that much. Move to 5 into the annul. And now we have Counterspell. We're kind of cooking now. Just countering that, protecting the hand. He's going to take Counterspell anyway, so I might as well. So now we have Thwart mana up, which is nice. We don't really have any business, but hopefully our draw steps are kind. That's actually a kind draw step, not going to lie. I imagine my opponent has some number of... They're doing nothing, so I'm expecting some number of natural ice effects and things like that. Another chain or an island? I think I actually want an island here. It may seem odd, but like I don't really have any use for chains when I have access to thwart and mana short. Yeah, that one, that's how my opponent gets back into the game. So that one's getting countered. I guess I'm gonna play the first one. Maybe I draw a foil and this matters. I doubt it, but now they know that I have nothing going on. I did a mulligan, but my draw steps have not been particularly effective. The only right thing to get there is the Chain of Vapor. So now that he knows what I have, I think it's interesting to play the Black Vice out. Promise we will run into a potential... The question is, am I playing Stasis here if I draw it? I don't think I am, so I'm just gonna pass the turn. I don't know if my opponent's playing Cabal Therapy though. And now that they know about Vice and Short, maybe I could have baited out a Naturalize instead. Okay, so let's Simples because I may find Counterspell or Gush. Thwart, sure. I guess I'm gonna thwart this. Take the... Oh, no attacks. Not that it matters, but missed the point there. Now that's a draw. So now we Gush. We see if we hit the Stasis. We don't, but we hit another Gush, which is fine. I think we're gonna Gush on their end step. Just Hardcast. This is not great. Not a great pickup there. That's a big pickup though. So I guess pass the turn. Upkeep. Mana drain them. Mystic Snake? Oh. Do I daze? No, I don't daze. I don't daze. But Mystic Snake is so sick. Why would he tap like that though? Don't understand that part, but wow, that's sick. Another Forsaken City is not great. So let's play Stasis. Now that my opponent's tapped low, and I guess I'm gonna also play out the Black Vice. Send the turn back. And now we wait. Patience is a skill. We take 2 from the snake. Would love to find some form of counter magic of any kind. Another island is okay, I guess. But I don't want to see my opponent hitting land drops. Oh, I just realized this is blue-blue. For whatever reason, I thought that... Oh man, his mana is sketchy. Yeah, I wouldn't play this one. If I had to guess, this is like a pet card of him or something. We're gonna daze here. Now, whatever he names, doesn't matter. But we tap them out so they don't have naturalized mana. But yeah, as we suspected, Cabal Therapy is part of his deck, which is very unsurprising. Okay, another land, that's a huge pickup. Huge pickup, for sure. Having access to any counter spell is kind of a big deal here. Am I paying with the city now? I think so, but I don't think I untap, however. Yeah, this is why. So I can foil pitch both cards, or I can just hardcast the foil. If I hardcast the foil, then we're in Forsaken City. I think I prefer that. This may be wrong, because now I'm gonna be in Forsaken City hell, but I think that I want to do that. Boomerang is huge, I think. So now we're waiting for like a Gush or something. So now cards in hand can be turned into lands, which is a big deal. And as soon as I find a Chain of Vapor, we probably just win. So we're gonna pitch city there, and then we're going to pay for their island gets played. And now we can bounce Stasis on my end step, and we're gonna get a full untap with a healthy amount of mana. I don't think we cast the Simples just yet. There's just no reason to do that. We can just chill out. Okay, Chain of Vapor basically locks it up. Pay for Stasis, don't untap city, play my island. And now we're getting to the point where my opponent's going to start taking some damages. We do have to remember there's a therapy in the graveyard, so my opponent can still do some nasty stuff here. Let's go Impulse, Counterspell. That's a nice one. And I could Chain of Vapor here. So let's chain my own Stasis, sack a land, chain the Mesmeric Fiend, which gives me another Chain of Vapor. Maybe this is wrong because now my opponent knows about the Chain of Vapor. Just a little bit awkward. We seem to be in garbage time though. Bird. Now we can start pitching these annuls. Another chain. So now we're gonna have to counterspell the Cabal Therapy flashback. But again, like I don't think it matters. I think this game has been over for a while. Fire Action Gargantua. Yeah, Sunny. Hell yeah. I will have what you're having, my friend. I will have what you're having. That is awesome. I'm skeptical of the Mystic Snake. This one, it's gonna be a hard sell. This one's gonna be a hard sell. But everything else that he's got going on, that's cool. All right, let's go on to the last round. Now we're going on to the last match. We're on the play. We're gonna keep this hand. Daze, Impulse, Thwart, all cards that we're excited to see. Opponent keeps 7. Land and go. Classic play. What am I up against? Mog Fanatic? I don't think I can afford to daze that. I hope that this is Burn, that this is Goblins and not Burn. I feel like we are going to have a better matchup against Goblins than Burn. I may be wrong though. Take one, Port. So it is Goblin. I could Power Sync here or Impulse. I think I want to Impulse Daze. I'll take an Island. And like this is gonna represent way too much damage here, so I have to. Another Island is not the best draw. We do have Power Sync, however, could do work. Take one from the Mog. Prospector, that's fine. Once again, we're gonna Impulse on end step. Do like Propaganda. We're not gonna be able to play it this turn, but we're gonna be able to play it on the following turn. They tap me on upkeep, which is fine. Another Impulse is actually not a terrible draw. Having access to Thwart is nice. My opponent's gonna be able to play around Power Sync pretty nicely. If I Power Sync here, my opponent just sacks a Fanatic. The problem is, what am I doing with this otherwise? Just pitching into a city? Yeah, I think I'm just gonna Power Sync this. It effectively trades for the Mog Fanatic, but I don't think I'm supposed to thwart this. I'm saving the thwart for an answer to the Propaganda. So they do sack the Fanatic, which is also kind of nice because I don't need to worry about that point of damage any longer. And they draw a Matron and a War Chief. So now they swing for 3. We're at 15 now. Can I draw Stasis? That would be pretty nice. We don't. But we're going to Propaganda here. So now if they want to develop their board, they can't attack, and vice versa, which is exactly where I want them to be. They could have double Naturalize, which would be nightmare scenario, but I don't think there's too much I can do about that. War Chief resolves. Thwart, they Naturalize. I assume no attacks. Yeah, that's a lot of impulses. If they have second Naturalize, I think I may lose this game. But if they don't, I think that this Propaganda is going to be able to do enough to keep my opponent at bay. They could also do something like Matron for Sharpshooter. Like, I guess I do need to respect Sharpshooter. Take 4. End step Impulse. I guess I'm going to take Thwart over Gush. If the best thing they can do here is port me, I'm fine with that. Yeah, this actually works out pretty great for me. There's the Stasis. Now we send the turn back. We see what my opponent does. They attack again, which largely taps them out. Looking forward for a Gush here. That's what I'm trying to find, which I could have picked up instead of this Thwart, but I feel like Thwart matters more. Untap, end step Impulse, Forsaken City. Second Propaganda is pretty interesting. I think I'm taking that. This may matter, because I can't drop Stasis this turn, because my opponent can just double port me. So what I can do now is play a second Propaganda. Now we're going to be able to force my opponent into a situation where if they double port me, they can't attack. So now it's going to be 4 mana per attacker. So they can tap everything to bring me down to 3, and then we lock them out as soon as they do. This game is really close. Propagandas are doing a lot of work. A lot of work. But now this is the turn where if my opponent doesn't play anything, if they just pass the turn with Rishadan Port up, then we can lock them out with a Stasis if they port me on upkeep. Okay, only one attacker. Sounds good to me. They have the Sharpshooter? Oh, man. This is devastating. This is the only way that things go wrong for me. They have to have exactly the Sharpshooter in hand. Because now if I thwart... Well, I guess I can go to 1. Okay, so we let this resolve. And now we thwart the Matron. And now we lose to Wasteland. Oh, I guess that's not true. We just lose to any Goblin that my opponent can cast off of this Prospector. So, never mind. Still not in good shape. But this is what we can do. So I guess literally any Goblin off the top wins for my opponent. And Wasteland. So I have to dodge like 80% of my opponent's deck. Man, because if they had to like Matron for the Sharpshooter, we can just counter the Sharpshooter. They're tap low. And then we just probably win from there because of the Propagandas. And now Sharpshooter is no longer part of the equation, because Sharpshooter is the only way that they can get through this Propaganda. Carplusen Forest. The problem is their hand must be another Naturalize or something like that, because what else could it be? Foil would be the only card that would save me here. Well, actually, once they sack this one... Okay, let's wait. No, this is fine. Any Goblin, just because this is the last one they sack. Yeah. Oh no, but they're not gonna be able to sack the new one that they cast. Huh, so maybe, maybe just maybe, Incinerator. Oh no, yeah, this is good enough. Never mind, I'm an idiot. So I needed to like have a Daze or something. If I had Daze, I would have actually been able to beat this. But now my opponent has Xaxes. Brutal stuff. Man, we always stabilize there. What a crazy game. So we want Blue Elemental Blast at plenty. And once again, Brain Freeze out. I think we want Curse Totem. Even though I'm usually not a fan of this card in the matchup, but Mana Short is interesting. I think I want it, especially because it deals with ports in a very clean way. Let's cut a Boomerang. Even though it would upgrade there, I'm going to cut a Foil. And I guess a couple of counter spells. Counter spells do answer Naturalize though. But on the play, I'm going to go with Daces. On the draw, maybe I bring in the counters. No lander. Easy mulligan. This hand is nice though. I think I'm going to bottom the second Ace. Could bottom the Boomerang. Actually, let's bottom the Boomerang. Maybe I should bottom the Forsaken City, honestly. Okay, land go. Lucky must be dazed. If they have second lucky, they're going to be able to play it through daze, which sucks. But hopefully we draw Hydroblast. Stasis is not a heinous draw. It's not great either though, and second lucky is very bad for me. Play my land, pass the turn. So now we're in a situation where my opponent is never going to spend mana anymore, so I need them to miss land drops. But yeah, this luck is just gonna bury me. My opponent should not cast any other spells for the remainder of the game. Ringleader into double War Chief. Please cast it and just pass the turn. I'm gonna drop a Stasis and hope that my opponent doesn't have Pyroblast, that they have Naturalize, or that they choose not to play around. Oh, this is terrible. I should have played the Forsaken City to play around with Shadow Port, which I did see from my opponent. This was a bad play. Should have held one more turn. So my best bet is that my opponent just attempts to Naturalize this on end step. I just got too scared of being hit by the Lackey again, but I feel like that's just a bet that we have to take. Yeah. They do have the Pyroblast. I should have waited one more turn so that I could play Forsaken City and then counterspell the Pyro and then go from there. So now I don't have Stasis. Yeah, I mean, I guess it wouldn't have mattered. They drew the port. Game is not over yet, but we are pretty strong non-favorites. There's the War Chief, into Pile Driver. Not quite lethal, but close to it. They port me on end step, which is the correct way to do it. We're gonna take a healthy amount of damage, and I guess potentially another Stasis can save me, depending on what my opponent puts here off the Lucky. Okay, just a War Chief. Second port, I guess it's not horrendous. I guess if I do top deck Stasis, we may have a shot, assuming they have nothing in hand. And then we're able to find a Gush at some point. And there it is. So we're gonna play the City, and tap it immediately, play at our Stasis. Very lucky top deck. Tranquil Domain, we counter it. And if they have another Pyroblast, we lose. Untap, no attack. Now this is interesting. I guess we don't pay. We don't untap, I mean. No, we just pay using the island. Pass the turn back. There are certain cards that were dead too. I guess that the no attack with War Chief is good, so it makes Pile Driver into a lethal draw. That's also a lethal draw, I guess. We're gonna daze here, and then we're gonna die. Yeah, I don't have a second daze. I guess I'm gonna have my opponent do it. Okay. They did it. Man, both games were me losing at exactly 0 life and completely stabilized otherwise. I guess this one wasn't completely stabilized, but like pretty close to it. Brutal stuff. Well, boy, was this an experience. I realized that I have no idea how to play this deck, and that this deck is really complicated and really hard to play, and very tiny, small sequencing errors and stuff like that can completely destroy a performance. So this deck really is trying to win on very, very thin margins, and if you give up even half a percentage, it feels like you can turn a win into a loss in a blink. It was really interesting. It was really, really interesting. Clearly, I'm not cut for it. I thought it was cool, but it's not a deck that I think I would enjoy playing personally. I do enjoy playing against it a lot, actually, which is, I don't know, it's kind of weird that I enjoy playing against it, but not it. But I guess it's common, I don't know. Never mind, doesn't matter. What matters is that I think this deck is quite strong, and in the hands of a capable pilot, it is a force to be reckoned with. And one thing I like about it is that I actually think that it's quite well positioned in the metagame right now. I think that it is well positioned against decks like Replenish, and obviously against a deck like Dreadnought, and cards like, you know, we get to play Annul, and this Annul is particularly good in this shell, and then it just naturally is advantaged against both strategies. Maybe against Dreadnought it's a little bit closer, but against Replenish I feel like the whole mana denial aspect and the fact that they need to just spend 4 mana to do literally anything at all, it just plays exactly into what the Stasis player wants. So Regardless of the list, I will not say anything because I really can't. I just thought that this card sucked, but again, you know, there's a reason why folks are playing it, and they apparently they enjoy it. But yeah, like all of these one-offs, you know, the mana short, brain freeze, power sink, all of these random one-offs felt a little bit like that, just random one-offs. Foil, same thing. Like foil was kind of weird. Like I understand wanting to have at least one different than Thwart, but in the end, Thwart just feels like it's so naturally well suited to be playing in this deck. I don't know. I don't really have anything to say since clearly I have no idea what I'm doing. But this was interesting. Thank you, Will, for sponsoring this league. Really, really appreciate it. And that's it for me. If you did enjoy the content, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next video, folks. Take care and long live Premodern. Bye bye.